In this video, I'll be talking about the 10 most aesthetic classic physique bodybuilders, in my own opinion at least. Obviously, a division as genetically gifted as classic will have so many quote unquote aesthetic bodybuilders, so please don't get too upset if your favorite isn't here. To make it as objective as possible, the criteria I chose were the following. Balanced structure and lines were necessary, flow and proportion from top to bottom was essential, and raw genetic insertions were a must. Now, I'm not necessarily looking for the competitors with the freakiest waist and the craziest X-frame of all time, since a lot of competitors have those things. I'm more so looking for balance and a great physique in every single pose. Starting off, we have Steve Laurius, who is one of the original freaks of aesthetics in classic physique. He had one of the smallest midsections I've ever seen, paired with a taper that made his upper body look incredibly impressive. Even with that waistline, his proportions stayed very much balanced, so everything flowed from head to toe. He was complete, and the chest, arms, back, and legs were all in proportion. Now, in my opinion, we never got to see his full potential. He quietly disappeared after the 2021 competitive season, and it's safe to say that we're never going to see him on stage again. Still, his impact was pretty big. He had impressive wins like the 2018 Pittsburgh Pro and a runner-up finish at the 2019 Arnold Classic, and his physique was definitely ahead of its time in terms of structure and flow. Yes, in today's classic physique scene, it would definitely look a lot smaller compared to the more massive and dense competitors now, but the clean lines, proportions, and small waist make him, for me at least, one of the most aesthetic physiques of all time in classic physique. Overall, the look he brought was basically the blueprint for what the division would later turn into, especially now when you look at the guys competing, and it goes to show you that extreme shape and beautiful aesthetics are just as memorable as raw size. Moving on to Llo Cari, he is one of the most underrated competitors in the division right now. He often gets overlooked and has not competed recently, but I think when he finally steps back on stage, he's going to make a really big impact. His physique stands out immediately because of his extremely small waist, crazy wide clavicles, and perfectly proportioned limbs. From the front, those bulbous lats give him a silhouette that's both imposing and extremely classic looking, especially when you factor in his tall height. The balance from top to bottom, front to side, is just about perfect, giving him a timeless X-frame that basically is the definition of what this division is all about. If there is one area that does need a bit more work, I would say it would be the back from behind, because he lacked a lot of width and taper compared to the front. That's something I believe he can bring up, given time, I'd say, and if he does, it could make him a real threat at the Olympia level. He's one of my personal favorites simply because of how criminally underrated he is, and from the first time I saw him, his insane aesthetics have been an eye-catching part of his physique, and I think he's got one of the most impressive, naturally gifted structures right now. Next up is Nile Darwin, and I know I talk about him a lot, but I think the hype is absolutely justified. Like Llo, he's a current competitor, but he takes all the positive traits we've covered so far and turns them up by 10. When you talk about perfect genetics in bodybuilding, this is the kind of physique you mean, not just for classic physique, but across any division. His muscle insertions are full and round, the lines are sharp and impressive all around, and every body part is filled out with exactly the right amount of muscle to keep the flow intact. He does have a few genetic limitations, like a frame that could be wider and a back that could be a bit more thick, but the way he presents his physique makes those weaknesses fade into obscurity. His posing ties everything together, the proportion, the structure, the flow, in a way that makes his look one of the most aesthetic in my own opinion. Now, Nile's combination of freaky detail, clean shape, and timeless lines puts him among the most promising and visually striking classic physique competitors on the planet right now. Also, if you guys are enjoying the video so far, a like and sub would really be awesome, as it helps out the channel tremendously. Up next is Raone Dino, and he really needs no introduction. He's one of the most popular physiques in all of classic physique, and it comes down to a unique combination of traditional and standout features. He's got all of the classic essentials covered basically, a great V-taper, balanced proportions, and a tiny waist, but he also has those massive arms that remind me of classic greats like Sergio Oliva. That mix of timeless shape with a standout amount of muscle makes him one of the most aesthetic athletes in the entire division. What really puts Raone on the map, though, has got to be his complete balance. Now, I've said many times that, in my own opinion at least, I think he has no true muscular flaws, And you guys have been pretty quick to point out that his lats from the front could be a lot better, and I would definitely agree with that. Now, aside from that, everything else flows very well. The legs, the arms, the torso, they're all tied together with a good amount of charisma and strong enough stage presence, although his posing is definitely a different story. Overall, it's a no-brainer to include him here, and I think his combination of structure, muscle shape, and charisma, as well as, fan likability, will keep him as one of the faces of classic physique for many, many years to come. Moving on, we have Terrence Ruffin, who's arguably the most refined and balanced physique in the division right now, and in my own opinion, the absolute definition of proportion. While Terrence does not have one single body part that absolutely dominates, every single pose is very complete and clean and perfectly balanced. Like everyone in this video, he's got the essentials, a small waist, good structure, and evenly developed limbs, but what sets him apart is how effortlessly he poses his body to highlight every single strength at once. Posing is often underrated in bodybuilding today, especially when it comes to creating a very aesthetic look, because without it, you cannot present your physique at its best, and Terrence is definitely one of the greatest posers right now. Whether it's the front double, the rear double, or a signature artistic pose, he makes each one unique and perfectly executed. Even the mandatory poses, where most athletes just focus on hitting the basics, are very polished to the point where you can see every muscle group fitting in together with perfect proportion. That level of refinement makes Terrence one of the most complete, timeless, and in my own opinion, aesthetic physiques right now, as well as of all time in classic physique. Now we have Logan Franklin, who is very similar to Terrence Ruffin when it comes to posing effortlessly and with a very high level of elegance. Where Logan differs, though, is in his wider, taller frame, which makes for a more imposing presence on stage, especially within the constraints of the division's weight cap. His proportions are more extreme, almost in line with someone like Llo Cari with a dramatic V-taper that catches your eye. His midsection is excellent whether flexed or in a vacuum, and his muscle insertions are as ideal as you can get in classic, especially in the upper body. Now he maintains a great balance from top to bottom, which does help to create a very good look, and if there's room for improvement, it would be in adding more size to the outer quad sweep and chest, particularly when he's on the flatter side. But I would say that Logan's refined posing brings out the best in his physique and masks any minor weaknesses. In my opinion, that ability to present the body to maximize its aesthetics is what makes him such a standout when it comes to being a very aesthetic bodybuilder. Next, we have Keon Pearson, who is best known today as the current 212 Mr. Olympia, and arguably the most dominant and impressive one in that division right now. But from 2017 to 2019, he competed in classic physique, and in that short time, he was almost nearly as dominant. Even then, he showcased the trademark features he's known for today, an incredible V-taper from the front, in my own opinion, one of the best ever, and, flawless genetic insertions from basically every angle, and round, full muscle insertions that make every pose look complete and absolutely ridiculous. Many people don't realize that he placed 4th at the 2019 Classic Physique Olympia, which speaks volumes about how competitive and polished he already was. Keon's front double biceps has got to be one of the best in the world today, and it basically showcases that incredible taper I was talking about, and back in 2019, it may have already held that title as well. In that shot, there's basically no single flaw. Your eyes move effortlessly from one standout feature to the next. When I look back at Keon in Classic, I see a physique that is like a more aesthetic version of Mike Sommerfeld. While Mike's strengths lie in a combination of good aesthetics with crazy mass and condition, Keon's Classic era look was all about proportions that were pleasing from every single angle, without drifting towards the look of an open or 212 competitor at all. That combination of symmetry, structure, and muscle shape made him one of the most aesthetic physiques in the entire division's history, even if his time there was short-lived. Up next, we have Branch Chen, who interestingly placed 5th right behind Keon Pearson at the 2019 Classic Physique Olympia, but never really matched that same Olympia impact ever again. Even so, he's my personal favorite classic bodybuilder from Asia, and I think he brings some of the most aesthetic front shots in the entire division. His front double biceps is incredibly unique. The combination of massive quads, well-shaped arms, and a tiny waist creates a silhouette that you do not see often. His proportions and flow from the front are unlike anything else I've seen in this division in the best way possible. While he may not be the most complete from other angles compared to most other competitors, the quality of his front poses is so high that I cannot leave him out. When I first saw him, I was genuinely blown away, and he was one of my first, inspirations to work out, and in my opinion, it takes truly world-class aesthetics to leave that kind of lasting impression. For me, he represents the idea that sometimes one standout view of a physique can be so memorable that it defines a, competitor's legacy in the eyes of fans like myself. Now we have Ers Kalisinski, and while some might disagree with him being here, let me explain. Now, Ers might not have the best raw genetics for shape. He definitely has weaker arms, a mediocre back, and a relatively narrow frame, but he also has a long list of standout features. His abs are some of the best in the division, his legs are among the most complete from every single angle, and his lats and taper from the front are excellent, and I would say his X-frame silhouette is beautiful when viewed as a whole. What truly makes Ers one of the most aesthetic in classic physique, though, has got to be his posing. Like Terrence Ruffin and Logan Franklin, he poses absolutely effortlessly, but he brings a more innovative twist. He mixes traditional shots with unconventional angles and transitions, drawing your eye to unique moments in his routine. Each pose is carefully chosen to look both aesthetic and very interesting to the eye, and he presents them with a lot of precision. Despite any genetic flaws, Ers has the ability to present a look that's undeniably aesthetic, especially in non-mandatory poses. Overall, I would say that his ability to elevate his physique when it comes to creative presentation makes him one of the most impressive posers and most aesthetic competitors as well in the division today. Finally, we have Chris Bumpstead, and I do not want to sound like a basic classic physique fan, so let me explain this choice. Of course, it is obvious that he would be in this video. He is the most dominant Olympia champion in the entire division's history, winning on a combination of aesthetics, mass, and condition. But I do think a lot of people sometimes overlook just how good his aesthetics really were. The dominance tends to overshadow the physique behind it, and when you break it down, he had some of the best proportions and flow in the entire history of bodybuilding. At his peak, his lats flared out wide and full, tying seamlessly into a tiny waist and large sweeping quads. His arms, especially towards the later part of his career, were developed enough to complete the look from the front. From the side and back, he was equally impressive, if not more so, and there was no pose in his prime that looked awkward or out of place. It is worth noting that CBum did not always look this way. Early in his career, like in 2017, several poses looked pretty incomplete. The front double lacked a lot in arm size, the side chest was awkward and posed very weirdly, and the rear double biceps lacked the depth in the back. But he addressed all of those weaknesses, and by 2020, his physique was more complete and very beautiful in motion. The end result was one of the most timeless looks in all of bodybuilding history, and in my opinion, the single best classic physique package we have ever seen. CBum's combination of aesthetic, structure, and competitive refinement set a standard that may never be matched again, and it will likely go down as the greatest look in this entire division. Anyways guys, that about does it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and please don't take it all that seriously. Also, I'd love to hear who your favorite aesthetic classic competitors are, and with that all being said, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.